look around and wonder why some people, people earning a ton of money, still seem to be on a financial knife's edge, while at the same time, others, maybe with less flashy incomes, are just quietly building this incredible lasting security? It's a real puzzle, right? And the answer has almost nothing to do with being smarter or timing the market. Today, we're going to dissect the hidden physics that really drives these two outcomes.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to isolate the one signal that matters more than anything. Then we'll look at the two very different paths it creates for people. We'll get to the weeds of the hidden engine behind it all, something called behavioral compounding. And then tally up the real cost of getting caught in the urgency trap. After that, we'll pinpoint where the true edge lies. And to wrap it all up, we'll flip this whole analysis into 3 really sharp questions for you.
All right, let's get right to the heart of it. The single most powerful signal in personal finance, well, it's not what you think. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. Not at all. It's about something way more fundamental. It really boils down to this one core conflict: precision versus patience. We're sort of taught that financial success is all about making these perfectly calculated, brilliant decisions. But what the data shows, time and time again, is that the duration you can stick with a pretty good strategy just crushes the short-term brilliance of a perfect one. And this right here, this is the key. A long time horizon just has more room for error. Think about it like this. A long horizon is like a wide, slow-moving river. A sudden storm or a bit of turbulence, no big deal, you just ride it out. But a short horizon, that's like a narrow, raging rapid. That same storm feels like a catastrophe, and it forces you to panic. The real advantage isn't being a better navigator, it's simply having more river to work with. You can afford to be kind of wrong and still end up exactly where you need to be. So how does the signal actually show up in the real world? Well, we see it manifest in 2 incredibly distinct financial archetypes. Let's take a look at how they diverge. On one side, you have who we'll call the anxious achiever. Think of them as a speedboat. They're fast, they're agile, they use their intelligence and a lot of leverage to react to every single wave. They're constantly tweaking, constantly course-correcting. And on the other side, you have the patient accumulator. They're like a giant cargo ship. Their main asset isn't speed, it's time and sheer stability. They just stay the course, absorbing the waves instead of reacting to them, making these slow, deliberate, low-pressure moves. And this chart, well, this shows you exactly how those 2 journeys play out. That jagged blue line for the anxious achiever, it's all over the place. Sure, there are some high peaks, but look at those terrifying drops. Now look at the orange line, the patient accumulator. It's slower. It's less exciting. But that steady, relentless upward climb ultimately gets to a much, much higher place. Patience just wins. But why? Why does this pattern play out so consistently? What is the actual mechanism at work here, driving these 2 completely different outcomes? Let's pop the hood and look at the behavioral physics of it all. You see, a short time horizon is basically a factory for making bad decisions. It always starts with some kind of external pressure, a looming deadline, a scary market dip, or just an urgent need for cash. This creates urgency, which floods your system with cortisol, the stress hormone. And when that happens, your rational brain just checks out. Our ancient hardwired aversion to loss takes over, triggers full-blown panic, and leads directly to the classic, devastating mistake, selling at the absolute worst time. And this brings us to the core mechanism, behavioral compounding. Look, we all get that time compounds money. That's Finance 101. But the much more powerful, almost invisible secret is that time also compounds the quality of your decisions. A long time horizon is like a cooling system for your emotional engine. It drains the urgency out of the situation, which stops panic before it even starts. And I promise you, over any decade-long period, a series of calm, decent decisions will mathematically crush a few moments of frantic genius, every single time. Not getting this signal right isn't just a small mistake. It carries a massive, tangible cost. Let's really quantify the price you pay for falling into this urgency trap. This number really says everything. On average, investors who are forced to sell or just panic and sell during the absolute worst market panics, they lock in a 40% loss. This has nothing to do with intelligence. It is a failure of their time horizon. They were put in a position where they had to act at the point of maximum fear.
I mean, the 2008 crisis is the perfect case study. Back in September, when Lehman collapsed and fear was at its absolute peak, that's when people with short time horizons got wiped out. They were forced to sell and lock in those huge losses. Then, just a few months later, March 2009, the market quietly started to recover. But by then, the short-term thinkers were long gone. They missed the entire rebound. The patient folks, the ones who did nothing more than just hold on, they didn't just avoid the losses, they captured all of the recovery. The price of that premature exit became permanent.
So, if the cost of getting it wrong is that high, where's the edge? What's the real advantage that the patient accumulator has? Let's break it down. This quote, it just nails it. The edge is not about having a crystal ball. It's about building a financial life, solid savings, low debt, a long-term plan that is so robust, so resilient that you don't need to predict the future. You're just built to withstand the storm, whatever it may be.
So let's be really clear about what a long time horizon actually buys you. It's so much more than just more money. It buys you tolerance for your own mistakes. It buys you the capacity to recover when things go wrong. It buys you emotional stability in a chaotic world. It frees you from constant decision fatigue. But maybe most important of all, it buys you optionality, the simple, priceless power to say no and just wait. That is the true asset. So in the end, the ultimate edge, the most valuable and lopsided advantage you can have in any financial system isn't some secret stock tip or a fancy algorithm. It's just having more time than the person on the other side of the deal. It's as simple as that.
Okay, now for the most important part. Let's turn this whole analysis inward. Because, understanding these patterns is only useful if we can see how they're playing out in our own lives. So, the first question to really sit with is this. What forces in your life are making you think short term? Is it external pressure from your job, the weight of debt, or is it internal, the expectations you put on yourself? Be honest. What's squeezing your decision-making window? Second question, where are you rushing things when you don't have to? In what parts of your financial life are you acting like that frantic speedboat, reacting to every news headline, when you actually have the ability to be the calm, steady cargo ship? Where are you creating your own sense of urgency that doesn't really need to be there? And finally, this is the one. This is the most important question. Try to reframe how you think about money. Don't ask what stuff it can buy. Ask, how much time does my money buy me? How many months or years of freedom and runway does your net worth actually give you? Because that, at the end of the day, is the truest measure of wealth. It's not a number, it's a duration.